My name is Adam Gugino, co-founder of Unblinded. I just got off of the Resilience Minds podcast with Eric Balance. By far the best podcast I've ever been on. Really was able to open up and get real. We talked about how our organization is accelerating and how we help other businesses accelerate in their money, time, and magic. I definitely recommend you checking it out and checking out everything Eric Balance does. He's an absolute rock star, good friend. Consider him a brother.
What is going on, everyone? I'm super excited, pumped up, amped up, ready to go. We got Adam Gugino in the house. What's happening, brother?
How are you, my friend? You got Sean.
I'm super excited.
Oh, I love it. How are you, buddy? I am so excited to be here.
I'm grateful to have you, bro. For anybody that doesn't know who Adam Gugino is a specialist in ecosystem merging, call centers, outside sales, inside sales, marketing, and client service. This gem started working in sales with just a laptop and an empty warehouse. And honestly, spending time building and creating a company or generating it from 3 to worth over $700 million, he actually spent time and walked away in order to focus on integrity-based sales training and took a step away. He could have had financial freedom, honestly. And he's currently co-founder at Unblinded Masteries, where his purpose and mission are to seriously bring the best out of people by helping them find their passion, their motivators, the things that drive them to create the path to success. Today, this man, this gem, this honestly, I have nothing but great things to say about you, brother. So I'm just really excited to have this conversation. But he's changing, tremendous, amazing lives through his company Unblinded, and I'm blessed. I'm grateful. My friend, my mentor, my good buddy, everything. I love spending time connecting with you, and I just want to share your brilliance now with my audience. And I just want to say welcome.
Well, wow. What an amazing introduction. You are incredible. And I think since the first moment that we were introduced by Dimple, the connection was genuine, it was authentic, and I saw your heart, man, and I heard your story. I was completely blown away by, your resilience, no pun intended, and just where you had come from and where you were at that moment. And, I think we may have even missed the first call. That I missed the first call at it was scheduled at 4 in the morning on what Memorial Day.
It was in Australia then.
Yeah, it was Memorial Day weekend though, I think, for us. And but ever since that first conversation, I knew that there was going to be a lot more coming between us, and that we would be at this point. So it's great to see where we are today, and you're amazing, man. So I'm so proud of you and what your magazine cover and all that you're doing in the world. So thank you for having me.
Hey, brother, it's honestly a pleasure. Honestly, we've been through, I think combined with through a lot of different circumstances and situations in our own, separate lives. And then now it's nice to emerge, come together and share a little bit of brilliance, collectively, and how, the co-creation of what you're doing, with your co-founders, Sean and Fernando, and really building this beautiful opportunity, I think. And I think it's important to really describe it as that, because it's an opportunity for so many to really follow in your guys' footsteps, and what really is culminating and cultivating to creating this new ability for so many people to step up in their own lives and create their own resilience as a regards to some of the key distinctions that you guys are bringing to the world. So I really share with my audience really powerfully, and I really believe so much in resilience and how it creates opportunities in our life when we have that. And one thing I really always share is like, how can we turn our X factor, which I like to call our experience, to our Y factor, to our big purpose, our why in our world. And I think that, we share that. We share experiences, different ones, of course, that have contributed to our big purpose in what we're doing, separately and then together. And I wanted to just really, get a little bit of that story, from you firsthand, because, people may or may not know who you are when they listen to this, or if they're watching live right now. But I think what's most important is really understanding that, none of us ever come from like this all of a sudden silver spoon, and I'm sure there's people that do, but I don't think that that's, most people don't. And we come from a place where, we transition to create a big purpose in our life. I know for me, the why is so big, when we want to, create opportunity for others. So, going back maybe, a decade even, or what, maybe further for you, but what has been your experience in life, maybe even a defining moment that has cultivated your big why, your big vision, that now you're like dead straight ahead, moving forward, get out of my way, I'm making a path and it's happening.
Well, yeah, thank you for the question. And I echo so much of what you just described, and why we're aligned. And I also heard a word today called, instead of co-create, co-elevate. And I love that, because it's so much of what's happening within the movement as well, and with us, you and I and Fernando and Sean and everyone. Well, there's been a couple of moments, a couple that I could think back upon that give me chills or bring me to tears. And they were both more or less Jerry Maguire moments, I would say, so to speak. And the first was when in my 30s, I took a step back in my sales career, thinking I was taking a step back, but starting at an entry-level position, working for a company called ADP, probably the largest payroll company in the country. And when I first started there, being a little bit older than most, I knew I had to really make a quick impact. So where the average person was making like 70 dials a day and being on the phone like for a few hours a day, I got there earlier than everyone. I stayed later, and I ended up being on the phone for somewhere like 6 hours a day and making like 300 or 400 calls a day. With that, I ended up breaking every record that they had set for inside sales. And I was winning every trip and award that they had. And they were all, of course, individual, awards and trips at the time. And then 2 years in a row, I was what they call board of directors. So I was number one in the country selling payroll over the phone. And I really was enjoying what I was doing, but I started to think about my why. Like, was this, the acknowledgement was great, but was I really having the impact that I believed that I was meant to have? And at that time, I got a phone call from a friend of mine, and he had started a solar company, and the company was annualizing $3 million a year. It had over 4 million, somewhere around there. And he had about 30 employees. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, Adam, I'd love for you to leave and join me and build an inside sales team to really, help my company grow." And I said, yes. And I ended up leaving ADP to a standing ovation amongst my peers in the call center. And that was the moment when I knew that it was about impact, because they didn't work for me. They were just like, around me, and they knew my name. And of course I was like the face of inside sales. So, but the positive influence that I had on others was what I knew, motivated me. So I left. That's number one. That was the first like real decision that I knew was going to change the trajectory of my life. I went to the solar company. I had no experience in inside sales, and definitely didn't have experience in building a call center or a inside sales team from scratch. And I was handed a laptop computer, and I was shown to an empty warehouse, and I was told to get to work. And I immersed myself in the learning of, right, making the phone calls, listening to calls, learning solar, and everything that I needed to do for myself. And then it was time to hire. So the hardest part was hiring people to come into an empty warehouse and having them see the vision that you believe, is going to be born here. And I went through probably like 20 people. Nobody was saying yes. I couldn't really find anyone with experience. And then I decided, you know what? I'm going to hire based on something a little different: likability and heart-centeredness. And I hired 8 people. The next 8 people that I liked, that we had fun together talking, and no experience, no background in sales. Found out later that out of those 8 people, most of them came from some really, really challenging upbringings. Some were homeless like several months before. Again, I found out later on. And I trained them for 2 weeks, put my heart and soul in the training, put them on the phones. We all started making calls. They all started making calls the first 2 days, and we ended up with a goose egg. Imagine hundreds of calls, each person, 2 days, and one appointment was set. The owner called me up that night, the second night, never forget. Adam, how'd you do? And I said, yeah, not good, 2 days in a row. And he said, wow. He's like, well, I really trust you. And, you've been doing a great job. Maybe you need to rethink your hires and start over with who you bring on. And wow, I didn't sleep that night. I really felt like a failure. I felt like I failed myself in the company, but I really felt like I failed the team that I had hired and saw that had faith in me. So the next morning I walked into his office, pumped up. I said, listen, I need one favor from you. Do not pay my salary for the next 30 days. Let me work with this group and we're going to make it happen. And that next day I went in, he ended up paying me, which was nice. And I'm grateful. I went in the next day. We all got on. I set up a table in the corner and I got on the phones with them, and I was getting hung up on as much as they were, but we set 7 appointments that day and one turned into a sale. A week later on that Thursday night, I know when I was sitting at Tony Robbins UPW and they say, bring me back to a moment that you enjoy, that brought joy to you. And that was when I drove home a week later and we set 30 appointments. I was in tears of joy because of the breakthroughs that I saw them having when they were actually setting appointments and winning and knew they were going to make money and their lives were about to change. Again, a pivotal moment. The next 3 years, we made Inc. magazine as one of the fastest growing privately held companies in the country. 3 buildings later, 50,000 square feet later, 500 employees, 13 departments under my purview. And we had a $64 million month, which is annualizing about $750 million in August of last year. But my proudest award that we won, not individual, but as a group, was Inc. is one of the best places to work in the country. And, when you are about others' success, there's no better feeling to know that your team, who is winning month after month, hitting goals, is also really happy in a call center environment, making cold calls. So
how did that make you feel as a leader, bro? Because that's really important. And I know, as entrepreneurs, it's really important for us to feel that fulfillment. You talked about that notoriety that you had, when you worked at ADP, and that notoriety that you created, and they weren't even working for you through positive influence. So you were already super fulfilled, but now you were under they were under your purview, and they were super fulfilled, and you were super fulfilled. And, you had all of that culture created, and, that DNA was created through you. How did that make you feel? I'm really curious to know that.
Well, that is a brilliant question. And the answer you might not expect. It made me feel incredible. It was amazing. It was everything that I always thought it would feel like because of the trickle down impact, and to see the training of the person that I trained, who they trained, who's now getting their first job to be able to buy their first car. Amazing. What wasn't amazing was what had become misalignment at that point between me and the let's say the partners or the owners. Not that, listen, friends, we were working together. There was misalignment just in like the idea of the mission and the purpose. There was massive focus on profit, you know, more money, more cars. And I was just like at a crossroads where I was feeling that impact, like you said, and I wanted more of that. And I started to see, you know, some of the quote unquote influencers that were out there and that were really, you know, having massive scaled impact. And I was just like starting to question, you know, like what was the motive, the overall motive. And that's when I decided to first look and explore for a possible coach and like to see what, you know, what that would bring me. And a friend of mine said, you know what, before you do that with somebody, because I was looking at the Tony Robbins world, before you do that in the position you're in, just go to Business Mastery. And I ended up going to Business Mastery, and then I'll pick up the story from there unless you had anything.
I love that. So as you went on this profound journey and you evolved that future, you made that intention to go to Business Mastery. So speaking of Business Mastery and being at Tony Robbins, what really changed in your belief system there as you grew? And what is that new belief system that you cultivated and fostered from that moment moving now to where you're today?
So I said there was a couple moments. There's definitely more than that now as we continue. There'll be at least one more after this one. Probably two more. And I should say, I was in the audience. I was experiencing Tony. I was doing all the work. I mean, everything I was learning, I was like, I want to bring this back to this partner, this for this partner. I was writing down how we were going to get to $1 billion. That was like, we were at 750. How can I take the company to $1 billion? There's micro distinctions that I need to do. I didn't have that word for at the time, but I was like really thinking about the micro distinctions as I was in the audience. And I did get a message from one of the owners, and I only say this because it kind of allows you to see like where the mindset started to change. They were like, I hope you're having fun on your vacation. And I'm like, I'm like, this is business boot camp. I'm here to turn your company into $1 billion, and you think I'm on vacation. But, you know, it was just clear to me that we were not aligned in what I was up to there. Now, also, the really big moment was the person I was sitting next to. And his name was Ben Fox. And he was legally blind. He was there to reduce the rate of unemployment for the blind. And we became friends. And as we were, you know, doing the work and the breakouts, I'm, you know, waiting and I'm watching everybody come on stage. And then a man steps up onto the stage. I also went through a platinum. I bought my ticket through a platinum guest pass. You know how you could, like, you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Yeah.
Well,
so you got this.
That knows somebody who had me sitting next to Ben. All of a sudden, I see a man come up on stage, and he's a blind attorney from New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, and he starts to tell his story, and he's, you know, offering platinum partnership. And I'm like, wow, like just so impressive. And I'm like, oh, just, you know, so taken back by his presence and his speaking and all of that. And I'm with this guy, Ben, and we're becoming friends. And then I find out from Ben that, that guy, Sean, he bought me a ticket. Like the reason I'm here is he paid for me to be here. And I'm like, wow, that's incredible. And I knew at that moment, I'm like, I want to meet that guy. Like he was doing some interviews and I saw him online. I was Googling him at that point, and I'm like, I want to meet Sean. And when I got back to New Jersey, Ben ended up setting up a meeting to go meet with Sean at a restaurant called the Capitol Grill in New Jersey. And that was where we met and had our first our first meeting, which was definitely one that I'll never forget.
So going back to that moment, tell me about that meeting, because now you guys are like, co-founders, you guys are doing big things, you guys are changing things around. Tell me a little bit about that meeting and what really was created in that meeting to really cultivate what today is Unblinded.
So you just gave me chills because I thought back and I keep remembering these moments and it, life's all about, right? Being able to live in the moment, experience it, and then be able to bring yourself back when you want to bring that emotion back. And when I met Sean, I was so unbelievably humbled by his hearing and knowing his background, really not getting to hear it in depth until there, but starting with him asking me about my story. And I began similar to here. I actually started a little further back and got into some of my sports and my club days and whatnot. And then as I continued to tell him everything, you could tell there was one thing that was different from this conversation and most. And it's happening now, Eric, by the way. You are an incredible listener. Your questions are so clearly showing your ability to listen, your acknowledgement, the validation of what I'm saying, my feelings, and you're very present to all of that. And that's what I felt. Like, that's what I felt there that day. And as I was telling my story, he was pointing out like heroic characteristics and saying, wow, Adam, like the fact that you were willing to leave ADP, a secure position, and really take a chance like that, man, that says so much about you. And I remember just like feeling so incredible because it's the first time I'm telling this story, the one I'm telling now there, like outside of the solar company that I was in and telling, so he's listening. And by the end of it, I'm completely like, Sean, please, like, tell me more about you. I was in the back of my mind, I'm like, I got to hire this guy as a coach or something. Like, I got to figure out a way. And I don't even know if he does that. I didn't even know anything. I'm just like, so
I love it.
And he tells me his story. And he begins with, playing baseball at Columbia University and before he was really starting to go blind and how he was the captain of his baseball team and wanted to be a Major League Baseball player. And that really connected and resonated. I always loved baseball. And then, of course, his vision, he started to lose his vision. And then he became an attorney and was in a top law firm, one of the most prestigious in New Jersey. And he walked away from that position once he realized that marketing and sales was, so important. And he had read the Awaken the Giant Within, and that started his journey. And I'm like, wow, like that connected. And then, he built that law firm and sold it, 2 top 100 jury verdicts. And I'm just sitting there like, hearing this incredible man talk about his accomplishments, and he's blind and doing all these things, and yet he was so impressed by me, was such a humbling feeling. So when we get to like, well, Sean, what are you doing now? That's when like everything changed for me in my life. And he started to talk about a formula, an unblinded results formula, right? And I think it was calling it the Caligie results formula at the time. And it was a way to achieve any outcome that you desire. And we've heard that before. And I'm like, okay, like sounds interesting, but well, tell me more. And it was through it really looking at acquiring those results through 3 containers. And 1 is influence mastery, 2 is process mastery, and 3 is self-mastery. What really connected with me at that time was when he talked about influence mastery, because I came from sales and going from hello to yes my whole entire life and speaking the language of closing, pitching, hooking, leads, and all of that, but always feeling disconnected to the language and feeling like it was lower vibrational and believing that you want to always sell something that, you could get behind. And then he said, what it's called is integrity-based human influence. And oh, by the way, there's 10 indispensable elements. And the first one and most important is unconditional love for all people with boundaries. When he said that to me, it was like lightning bolt right to the heart, because I had known that my success had been built on my ability to lead with my heart in every space that I've been in. That's how was able to influence. That's how I was able to go from 0 to 500 employees. And that got me really curious, right? Then he started talking about process mastery. You could have all the heart in the world, but if you don't have process, you're never going to be able to really break through to the next level. And what it brought me to was the fact that we went from 0 employees in a warehouse to 500 employees, where I was at that time. And I knew that it was literally built through process. Yes, heart, motivation, and inspiration, and all of the culture that I had provided. But the process was, if somebody put their information online and requested something to do with solar, we called them within 7 seconds, and we were at their house anywhere in the country after qualifying, confirming, and setting. We would be there in 2 hours to be able to present to them anywhere in the country. The process that we had created and built through the technology and through the different people, which I called at the time a sales assembly line. I wouldn't use that language today. I have other language for it, but at the time, that's what I called it. I knew process and influence were the 2 reasons I was so successful. The third container was self-mastery, which is what a lot of personal development is, and it's wonderful and it's important. Without that, there's nothing. The fear of failure and the fear of rejection could prevent you from getting out of bed in the morning. So if you can't do that, nothing is going to work. So when I listened to him start to talk about the formula and these 3 different containers, and that's how you diagnose any outcome you're looking to have, I was like, wow, this is why I've been successful. But I also had a few areas of my business and life that weren't getting the results that I wanted. And I wasn't living in the abundance that I felt that I probably deserved at that stage with a $750 million company. And one of the things I also opened up about at that table that day was that I had felt that there had been some unfulfilled promises in that regard as well. So a lot of learning, and also Sean began to lay out the vision of what Unblinded was going to look like. It was launching in January of the year, January 10th, 11th, and 12th. And believe it or not, Eric, so much of what is happening right now at this moment with Unblinded, I mean, like, from the platform we're about to roll out on Sunday at the event, from just the distinctions, the immersion, the movement itself, he was laying that out for me at that table. Like, he saw it so clearly. And the mission, the purpose, all of it was introduced, and I was loving it. And now the next 2 weeks, well, let me stop there, pause, because a lot happened from there. Yeah.
I think that, when you discover, and like, I love the influence, I love the process. And I think, emotional or self-mastery is such a fundamental byproduct of just like really coming in and distinguishing ourselves as leaders. And, I always love to discover and talk about, how we can connect from, our ego to our highest self through connecting, our logical mind, our emotional heart, and then, our integral ethical standpoints. And that, I think, really is why, like, we're able to align so well, is because when I really believe in the way, I love direct response, right? Connecting and really establishing that rapport through marketing. And that to me was so important.
You don't make a phone call. You don't make a phone call unless it's FaceTime. So I know what you mean. I know what you're saying, but yeah.
Right. So I love it. Thank you. Yes. So it's like, it's so important to really, like, you're so funny. It's so true though. Now that you're like making that point. And it's important, like, for me to really connect in that way. And I think that as we are able to add value to a person And we can do it with, with ethics, with integrity, by connecting and building that rapport. We allow ourselves to really show morally the obligation that we need to find the to help people make the decision to not influence them in a manipulative way, but influence them in a way that's going to actually help them get to the results that they need to.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
and I think that's really why you and me. Go ahead, sorry.
No, I was saying, and that's through authentic, a genuine emotional rapport connecting, which is, step number one, because in order for you to understand that they are better off with you or with whatever your service or product is, you have to know, you have to believe that in your heart. And when you do, then yeah, you do what you can to unblind them to see what you can do to help. I mean, and from there, everything, well, the next, I would say, month, I went to his house in Long Beach Island like a week later. He put me on the spot. I walked into Sean's, remember, I was so new to everyone, to all of this. I'm working in a company. I'm 24/7, 7 days a week. I hadn't taken a vacation. The only vacation I took was the business mastery, which was not a vacation, but they thought it was. And then Sean invited me to his shore house like a week or two later. And I walk in and there's like 15 people, and it was like his, it was a mini immersion. And he puts me on the spot. Like, he's like, Adam, stage a mic, tell everyone your story. And I'm like, I didn't know anyone in the room. And I sit there and I just started telling everybody like what I had done and the solar company and where I was. And let me say this. He had told me that my story was one of the best business stories that he had ever heard. And the group, he went around the group of people in his house, same place in Long Beach, and asked them what they thought of my story and the warehouse and where I was. And each person was saying something unique but unbelievably just emotional and like humbling. And I realized like, wow, when I was living in my own story at that moment, and I started to think, well, if I'm living this story, if this is the best story that he's ever heard, how do I make it better? And fast forward, after immersing myself in his work and his training for the next, few weeks, I scheduled a meeting with the 3 partners at the solar company. Again, amazing, brilliant, accomplished men. One Forbes 30 under 30 Entrepreneur of the Year. The other graduated from Harvard, West Point, worked as an executive at Morgan Stanley. The third, who I was really close with, was, kind of like a Grant Cardone sales guy, dropped out of med school, genius, all really, really smart guys. And just setting the stage. So walk in, have them come into the office. Remember, I'm the face of the organization. They are like, I am doing everything under the sun for the company, bleeding blue. And I say, guys, listen, I always follow my heart. And that's still the case. The only difference is my heart is no longer with Momentum. It is now with Unblinded and Sean Callaghan. Let's just say jaws dropped. They were shocked. They were, and I wouldn't blame them. I mean, they would never have known. I never like stopped working, or so. I was always committed with all of everything in my heart to build and to work and to help everyone that was there. So when that happened, it was an absolute shock. And you know what? Everything that I thought I wanted became what was offered. So as I left 2 weeks later, each one pulled me aside, each one privately, and said some wonderful things, kind things, grateful. But they said, you realize, Adam, you're walking away from millions, if not tens of millions of dollars that you've earned here at this company. And I knew that. So I knew I was leaving financial freedom at that moment for what I believed to be the greatest formula, the greatest way for me to impact people and to have that massive, incredible impact to make the world a greater place.
And I think that,
yeah, no, and I was going to say, and I was able to truly like measure the purpose versus just the money aspect. And I felt like the richest, most wealthiest man on the planet when I did that. And I also knew that I was going to top the story, because the last part, I want you to say what you were going to say. Imagine yourself in your story. You are living your story right now. Everybody has a book in them, right? Or an autobiography, and I asked myself, how do I make this story? Or if I'm the audience, right? What do I want the hero character to do in this moment? And it made it really easy for me to make the choice, because everyone knows what's the right thing to do when you're reading a book. You know, it wouldn't have been to just stay with the money, or, you know, to make a choice that's not aligned with your identity. So that's how I made it. And yeah, it was definitely.
I think that's, Adam, that's the distinction there that really sets, if you will, for lack of a greater term, the boys or the men from the boys. And I think that's like the distinct, like really following that intentional way to live, and create and foster these powerful visions that we, you know, come in as leaders to really ultimately create a path for those that are uncertain to creating their own path. And we're like, you know, get out of the way. We got this. We'll do this. We'll make this happen. And what you went there with my hallucination is that, you know, you knew that deep desire within yourself in the heart was like, I'm going to go and I'm going to do something like this or better, where my heart said. And it's like, I literally recently was like, anything that we decide, like with quality questions, you get quality results. And when you answer those questions with results, it's like, or better. It has to be or better. Whatever the answer is, plus better, right? Because you got to leave room for that opportunity. And so if there's somebody out there right now, imagine, you know, they're really thinking at this moment in time, you know, and they're 10 years behind, or 10 years, you know, or maybe they're just starting for the first time. What would you tell that individual that's really, because you're coming from a place of tremendous abundance, Adam, right? You're coming from a place of tremendous abundance in this moment. Like, I'm certain you can, like, you know, anchor yourself back in that moment and say, listen, I was in this space, this category, this feeling, and I was coming from a place like the most wealthiest man, like you just said, tremendous abundance. What do you say to somebody that is feeling like they're in scarcity, and that's the only thing that they could look at is the dollar figure?
There is no price tag you can put in living in integrity and aligned with your identity.
Beautiful.
I'll say it again. There's no price tag you can put on living in integrity and aligned with your true identity. It's
and those are the values that you show up, like you literally embodied and now passed on in the culture of what Unblinded, the DNA of Unblinded is literally that type of integrity.
I knew that.
And I really want.
Yeah. Like you said, I knew that I could literally eat, breathe, and sleep what I was about to walk into, and be able to quote unquote sell or go from hello to yes. Like as a salesperson, you know, when you are not, even if you're just not aligned with leadership in that way, and you know you're making money for somebody else who might not have, and I'm not challenging their integrity, who they are as human beings and their values. It just wasn't aligned with mine. And I found a place in a home with partners like Fernando and Sean, and we're building a community of alignment around heart-centeredness, purpose, with the mindset to also bring math into the equation to accelerate, make money, and have abundance by helping others do the same, right? So they're like complete alignment. And when we talk about the movement itself, we are building this movement one heart at a time. And I could make those choices. The biggest reason one of the biggest reasons I walked away is because I didn't have I don't want to say authority, but I didn't have or even power to make the decisions or have the influence, right? Really, I didn't have the influence or the skill, maybe even as well, because I wasn't a partner to make sure that I was able to keep the trajectory of the organization the way that I wanted it to go. And here now it is congruent. The integrity-based human influence, one thing it does is it exposes the truth. And I want to anchor on this, because one of the things that Sean told me at that dinner table was, Adam, I have a $250,000 bet on the internet that I could out-influence anyone on a neutral set of facts. And I was like, wow, coming like out of nowhere. I'm like, it wasn't congruent, right? But then he told me, he said, but listen, it is not ego and it is not significance. And I know it's not now, but he did point that out. He said, it's literally because of my commitment and pursuit, and integrity-based human influence will expose that. And anybody out there, say any name, he asked Grant Cardone, the Grant Cardones of the world, the selling, the zero-sum game approach to selling, bring it on against integrity-based human influence, and integrity-based human influence will win each and every time. With that being said, somebody might say, well, prove it. Well, we have a show called The Real Raw, which has had over 230 episodes where Sean is the host and the moderator all in one. We know there's another host, and Vivian, she's amazing. And then we have, you're going to be holding one, but Sean has been present. He's present on all of them. And through the formula and integrity-based human influence, we've been able to demonstrate the superpower of what influence looks like when used with authentic connection and integrity. And no better place to be able to prove with that R&D laboratory and the science, the mechanism and the science around genuine connection. That's what The Real Raw has been able to do. And again, it comes back to integrity-based human influence. All of which we're talking about is just, evolves in that regard.
I'm actually really excited about it. So, I'm really excited about having, our first one, which is going to be at the time of this recording the first one is coming next on this upcoming Monday. But what I'm really excited about is really, connecting some great people together and just adding value to communities. And, whatever transpires as a result of that, I know that that's just a co-creation of other amazing opportunities. And I think that was always, it's like, one thing that really resonates with me really powerfully. And I mean, you know how Tony's impacted my life in tremendous ways in more than one area.
Mine too, brother. Mine too.
Give more than you can ever expect to receive, and you live the ultimate life, right? And yes. I really believe in that, and I really do ultimately understand that that's really the most important fundamental concept that he's taught me in really my understanding of how to live life in integrity. And I think that that's why we align so well. And I know that there's always going to be people, that have individual and opposite views from that. How do you respond to that, Adam?
So when you have genuine, unconditional love for all people with boundaries, and what boundaries mean are just agreements in place, and also, devoting your time and dedicating yourself to or loving somebody's dreams more than they love them themselves are the boundaries to put up, right? Because you can only do so much. You can only influence or attempt to influence so much But if you just truly come from a place of unconditional love and providing the presence and the depth of listening and the connection, and also knowing when to confront, because that's such a key part of what we do, and part of the, you know, the real raw and what we call them objections and rebuttals, right? So in the sales world. But yeah, the ability to confront in love, because because your desire is not what's the best outcome for you. It's what would be the best outcome for that person and in service of. So back to your point about the real raw. Yeah, it is built and created for the acceleration of the people that are running it and the people that are participating through depth of connection, authentic depth of connection, where people's listening is really opening up, because, you know, they're sharing their greatness, and they're also learning and seeing how there's more than meets the eye. So somebody described it to me as like, it's a combination of like a sales training, networking event, a TED Talk, and a Toastmasters, all wrapped up into one. And I said, you know what? It's not any of those things, but it's not like all of them, but the best of. But ultimately, it's a place for people to be able to really connect and have the freedom to be themselves. And that is that to answer your question, it is the freedom to be yourself. And also, are you there?
So I know we got cut off a little bit there earlier, Adam, bro, but it's all good, man. Like, we're back here. We're ready to rock and roll. I was asking you, you know, if people have opposite views from you, how you really respond to that. And you were going through, you know, a few different scenarios there. But if you want to just kind of like elaborate a little bit on, you know, I know for myself, when people are struggling or with my point of view, I really try to look at from their lens. And it's fascinating. Like, I really believe that people do the best they can with the knowledge that they currently have. And, you know, that wasn't always the case for me. You know, I had this ego. What do you mean you don't understand what I'm looking, the way that I'm looking things? So how do you handle things? How do you handle or respond to people with that different point of view?
So it is absolutely through acknowledgement and questions.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make it sound simple, but that is the approach. So always want to respect and acknowledge the other person's point of view. And then, you know, if you want to say challenge the certainty of that view, you know, what are the that has created that view? So a lot of times, you know, I'm not going to claim to know everything about everything. In the case of something that I'm very familiar with, if it's in regard to influence or process or business or sales, you know, I'm going to ask into that different point of view. I'm going to ask questions around what created that view for them. Of course, again, acknowledging their concern or where they are, their point of view, and then ask questions into that.
Beautiful. I love it. And I think questions, like we always share, the quality of the questions determines quality of any result, right? Or quality of relationship, quality of friendship, quality of life, right? So, you know, you've given us such a tremendous path of success throughout, you know, the course of the conversation of the episode. And I really want to just ask you, what would you say would be one reason why people would fail?
Well, you know, it's hard to give one reason because, you know, there's a lot, but what I would say is I would have to give one as the formula, and then I would say that it is really, you know, the three reasons within the formula, because the way we look at it from a business perspective, if I'm going to answer the question from a business perspective, because you could really take this so many ways, right? Fail at what? First, I would say there's no such thing as failure, right? You can always learn from and grow. And even with what we do every single day, you know, we're constantly optimizing, because you could look at every situation based on a scale really of mastery, in a certain area. And, that's why failure is not really something that we say, well, you failed. You could always just be more optimal or suboptimal and increase your level of mastery in a certain area. And then when you look at like, why are people not achieving the outcomes they desire, would be more how I would reframe the question, through the prism of influence, process, or self. That would be the way that we, use the formula to be able to diagnose your exact question. So everything we do is to diagnose why somebody isn't achieving the outcome that they're looking to achieve. Is it their ability to go from hello to yes? Is it the process in which they are creating the opportunities to go from hello to yes? Or is it something within themselves, fear of failure, fear of rejection, that is preventing them from taking the action steps or zone action to be able to then have the process to then have the influence to go from hello to yes? So that is the way we diagnose why someone isn't achieving the results that they're looking for. From there,
it really comes back to more questions.
I'm sorry?
It really comes, like you said, it just keeps coming back to more questions, it sounds like. And it's like, what I really, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that I just really wanted to capture that. It was really powerful. It was the quality of the questions. And I know, like for example, there's so many great individuals out there. I think of like the immediate person I think of is like Jay Abraham, right? The power of his questions, the way that he asks questions, and he's able to extrapolate so much beautiful information from individuals, is like how fast that really comes to clarity for the individual. And you said like the perfect reframe, well, no, let's focus on what's the outcome that you desire, and let's really look at ways that we can make that work. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It does. And then when you look at the outcome you desire in business, if it's more sales, right? Well, I want more sales, and I'm quote unquote failing at the number of sales that I want to get. Well, I can't just give you one reason why that person is failing without asking questions. And I'm saying failing only to keep it there, but I would say not achieving the outcome they desire, or even, more than they desire. Because sometimes people, they're underestimating their potential. So with that being said, is it their ability to go from hello to yes? Is it because they are not connecting, right, on the level that maybe they could be if they were authentically asking questions and really getting to know someone? Is it that they're not acquiring relationships in ecosystem merging stages and microphones to be able to have more quote unquote sales meetings that could turn into sales? Or is it that literally they're just not getting up out of bed in the morning and they're working, 2-3 hours a day, and it's something in their self mastery that needs to be really looked at, right? Could be any one of those three, or Eric, it could be a combination of all three of those, which for most people, it's a combination of all three.
Yeah. And I think that you really nailed it, man. It's like there is oftentimes the combination where people, they don't have, they lack it either in one really hard or in all three at once. And to me, I think that's super important to be aware of that, so that we take the time to initiate and create and, be self-aware and, have the time to influence ourselves and others, and make the time to really implement the process necessary. Because for me, systems have become such an important part of like the scalability in business. And without that, we can't really, without duplication, you're going to keep working for yourself. And
that's a great point. So that's
trading time for money.
Eric, that's a great point, because a lot of people will say, well, I'm doing well, and I have the ability to have anyone say yes to me, right? And that's true. There are some people that are extremely accomplished because of their unbelievable mastery in one of those three areas, right? Some people are such incredible influencers, and whoever they speak to, they could bring them from hello to yes, but they're still achieving that ultimate outcome they're looking for. Maybe it's because something in their process isn't giving them the ability to use that skill. And then you say, well, this person's not good at influence, but yet they're still really successful. Well, then their process might not be where it needs to be. Even within the distinctions of influence, some people, because now we could really break it down, and that's why that question that you asked was like, now we could go, well, why is their influence? They're still great at influence, but yet they're not really empathetic or loving. Well, that's because they have this incredible certainty and Zeus energy, and they still know how to bring people from hello to yes. But imagine they had a little more fun. Imagine they had a little more what we call goddess for love energy. Think about where their influence can go, their mastery of influence could go on in that scale. And that's, again, one micro distinction in influence. But we could then take, we could go on for hours on this, the days. Sean could go on for days and months. But that's where we're going with what we're doing, to really be able to, again, diagnose what it is, those small levers, to be able to have that next level that you're looking for.
So Adam, if people are, curious, because I think you've probably left a little bit of curiosity for people that might be interested and want to know more, find out more about what you and Sean, Fernando are doing. Where's the best place that they can connect with you? Best place they can reach you? Best place they can, find out more? I'm really, I'll obviously have everything put into the show notes, but for anybody that's listening now, is there any way they can connect or find out more resources?
Well, your audience, I know, is absolutely incredible, and who you engage with. It's not a. One of the things we talk about all the time too is, right, you're not measured leaders are not measured or counted by the number of followers they have. It's really by the number of leaders they lead. And Sean's been saying that, and I believe that, and you are truly a testament to that. You have a lot of followers, but on your Instagram, but really it's the leaders that you lead and the people that you are able to influence. So I have no problem giving out a work phone number that I'll put in your, in the chat here, 732-672-9002. That's something that I'd love to provide. And then also, we have our website, which you'll put in the chat here. And really what I would like to offer to your audience is the real raw.
What's the website? What's the website itself? Just so that I have it on the show notes.
Sure, www.unblindedmastery.com.
Cool. And
then I would like to just offer connecting to you for real raw opens that you're doing. So anyone, if you wouldn't mind putting your information out for people that want to have the experience of what we do. We demonstrate integrity-based human influence, the superpower of being able to go from hello to yes, which is just one of the three containers that we spoke about just a minute ago. But that's a place where someone recently described it to me as, I don't know, I feel like it was this sales training, networking event, podcast, TED Talk, Toastmasters, all wrapped up into one. And I said to them, it's not any of those things, but it's not a little bit of all of those things, maybe even the best of. So if they would like to be a part of that or learn more about that, reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. And because I'm
really excited. I'm really excited about that. It'll be a lot of fun. And probably by the time this is being dropped, we already had a few of them. So you get to go back and watch some of the highlights.
Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to being a part of yours on Monday.
Yeah, it'll be amazing.
Oh my God, the day is just tomorrow.
I know, they just come together. So brother, before we go, I have one last question to ask you. I ask everybody. If you had 3 days left to live, what would you do?
Well, I'll tell you one thing I would not do is hit the snooze button. I've actually one of my quotes that I put out there about a year ago or so was like, if you knew today was the last day on earth, would you hit the snooze button? And that's been something that got me out of bed this morning at 5:30 in the morning. But if I would, this question, I would say that if I had 3 days, one day I would do without question exactly what I'm doing right now, which is nonstop, building this business, because I love the connecting of people and the impact that I'm having by introducing what we're up to in the world is changing the world. There's no question. But I would be remiss if I didn't say I would absolutely have to spend one day of those 3 with my mom, my dad, and just, of course, just probably one each there, one day with my mom, one day with my dad, and then one day spend with my friends. But I would for sure spend a day doing exactly what I'm doing right now, and building this business, because that is definitely the greatest impact in the way that I'm going to create the legacy that I look to create. The other 2 days, friends, family, Sean, team, I would make sure to spend some time with you, Eric, on that on that Friends Day, no doubt. So
Appreciate you, bro. Brother, you're a blessing, man. I'm super humbled and grateful to have had you on the show, man. As always, man, we just have a pleasure to connect, man. And I thank you for your time. I look forward to spending more time together in the near future. And let's continue changing the world, my friend.
I want to just say this podcast, this interview was absolutely incredible. I got chills multiple times just by your questions. You really gave me the ability to connect with myself and really with what we do here. So, I mean, I don't know if I've ever had a interview podcast that's been quite like this. It's been incredible. Thank you so much for all you do in the world, the impact you're creating. And man, I'd love to be on again. And I love to just, continue this journey with you, brother.
Likewise, brother. I look forward to talking soon, man. Talk soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.